I am going to have you copy down these quick notes on right triangle congruence, which we call HL or hypotenuse leg. This is the very last type of proof that you are going to see with triangle congruence. And my document camera isn't working, so I'm just going to show you the notes this way and have you write them down and just explain a little bit. So with hypotenuse leg proof, so you can see the information right here. So you'll want to fill in these blanks. We're basically saying if the hypotenuse and a leg of a right triangle is congruent to the hypotenuse and a leg of another right triangle, then the triangles are congruent. So when you see a right triangle, here's two examples. You have the right triangle, or I'm sorry, the right angle. That's what makes it the right triangle. And then these two sides right here that are adjacent to the right angle, those are the legs. And then the one that's opposite, so across from the right angle, that's the hypotenuse. And it says it right here as well. So you have a reminder. And basically, with an HL proof, we're saying if we have a leg congruent to another leg, so these two legs are congruent, and then we have the hypotenuse congruent to the other hypotenuse, then we can say that the triangles are congruent. So with this type of proof, all we need is a hypotenuse and a leg, and that's it. So the proofs tend to be shorter than other proofs. So you'll want to write down this part right here. If BC, so BC, if BC is congruent to EF, so if the hypotenuse is congruent, and then AB is congruent to ED, so AB congruent to ED, the legs, then the triangles are congruent. So triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. So that's the basis of our proof. So we're just going to look at two proofs super quick just so you can see what those look like. And then we will be done. So here I'm given a proof. So it says, given that triangle LMP and triangle MNP are right triangles, so it tells me that they're right triangles. So that's an indication that I'm going to be using an HL proof, so a hypotenuse leg proof. So you'd want to refer back to this. And this is on our reference sheet as well. This is the final type of proof on our reference sheet. And then it also says that ML is congruent to MN. So that's, exactly what I needed to give me the hypotenuse. So these are the hypotenuses, and so they are congruent. So I would start, it tells me my first statement is given to me. My second statement is given to me. And then so basically, since I have that the hypotenuse is congruent to this hypotenuse, I just need a leg. And the easiest way for me to do that is saying, okay, MP, they both share that side, MP. So I can say MP is congruent to MP. And I know that because of the reflexive property, which is nothing new. So the only thing that's different here is now I have a hypotenuse and a leg. So these are congruent by the hypotenuse leg theorem. So I just put HL right there. So instead of, side, 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 side angle, side, it's just HL for hypotenuse leg. And that's pretty much it. So it is pretty basic, but it is different in that we're using hypotenuse leg. Now, technically, those are two sides, but in a normal proof, we couldn't just say side, side. It has to be side, side, side. So with a right triangle, it's a little bit different. We can just say hypotenuse leg. So I will let you get that copy down, and you can pause if you still need more time. I'm going to scroll to the very last proof, and then that'll be it. Okay, so with this triangle here, so it tells me that WVX and YZX are right triangles. And then it tells me that WV is congruent to YZ, so that's a leg right there. And then it says X is the midpoint of WY. So, we always remember midpoint. What that means is that X cuts these two in half. So we would want to say that WX is congruent to YX, and we mark that here. So now if you notice, basically we have a leg. So these are the legs, and then we have the hypotenuse. These are the hypotenuse across from the right angle. So most of this proof is just going to be givens. So I am writing here in the statement. So the first thing I'm writing is that WVX and triangle YZX are right triangles, and that was given to us. That was the first thing given. Second thing given, WV is congruent to YZ, that is given. And then the third thing that's given, X is the midpoint of WY, and that is given. So we start with all of our givens. And then after we get our givens, the one thing that we have to infer from our givens, so whenever they tell us, something is the midpoint, we're going to be using the definition of midpoint. So because they told us X is the midpoint, we could then conclude that WX right here is congruent to YX. So that's where we wrote that WX is congruent to YX, and we know that because of definition of midpoint. And then that means we have the hypotenuse and we have the leg, so we can say that the two triangles are congruent by hypotenuse leg. And that's it.